How are you?
Today.
Yeah, good, good. Thanks for joining us. I see that gorgeous map behind you, and I can't help but
hmm
think about all the places that you've ventured to.
Yeah, no, it's quite the list, and it's one of those things of inspiration to keep me happy. I'm in my dining room right now, actually, so it's just a little backdrop to always keep us motivated about the many beautiful places in our globe to travel and have adventure in. So,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's always amazing when you connect with a coach that's really found their passion and actually made it something that you enjoy doing as well as
hmm
giving, right? I think you and I were talking
absolutely.
about that last time, right?
hmm Yeah, it's funny that passion and just living with it and tying it all in, and really, it's leading by example. That a lot of times people will get jobs or find jobs that just happen to be out while they're looking, and they get them because it's similar esque of an interest, but to truly fully create something from scratch so that every day is incredible and you're never really working is a pretty beautiful thing.
Yeah, yeah. And I think we should talk about that because we shared some of that last time. Let me introduce you so we can get into some of these amazing topics. I know that the half hour is going to go quickly, so um, welcome, Dave Ulrich. Sorry, Urichuck. I don't know
That's
where
right.
that's getting stuck in my head. Sorry about that, but
No problem.
Dave's an amazing international speaker, professional coach, and a published author. So, congratulations. You've done so much. And I was watching some of the things that you've done and very, very successful coach. So, congratulations. Um, Dave's
Good.
passion is to help clients explore their lives and their businesses from a perspective of defining their beliefs in order to achieve their personal best, their professional goals and their personal goals, which is really, I guess, in hindsight, it's what coaching is all about. But you do it in a very unique way. So I'm just going to
hmm
touch on that very quickly. You help them gain a perspective of themselves, their lives, their passion, so that their career and their livelihood really becomes what they would like it to be. And again, a very unique way of approaching things. You've been a great speaker, a coach, but the unique thing that you've done is the adventure coach platform, which is really exciting and fun. And I'm going to come out there and do this with you, I think, because, you know,
That's good.
coming from Australia, I love the outdoors, as you know, and we
hmm
kind of tend to miss some of that with all the mountains that you've discovered how to take advantage of. Um, the
hmm
packages really help people, individuals, a group looking for life changing experiences to come and do that. So that can do it as individuals or as a company team, I guess, is the
Yep.
idea. Yeah. Um,
Exactly.
yeah. And you've run workshops, you've done one on one coaching, you've done the outdoor adventures, you've been to more than 35 countries. I think you said you're up to 38 now. So
Yeah.
studied with Jack Canfield, Tony Robbins, and look, I can go on and on and on, but I just appreciate you taking the time to speak to other coaches and business owners.
Pleasure to
You
be here
said,
today.
yeah, thank you. You said something earlier, and I think you and I touched on this. It's a lot of people tend to go into a profession because of what they're good at, not necessarily what they love, right? And I think you had some of the
hmm
same experience, right?
Oh, absolutely. And I remember even because I have a university degree that I'm not using per se in my day to day as my full time employment. But when I was there, I realized I heard a study that like 87% of people finishing university aren't using their degree. And it's fascinating because, the journey that we all grow through when we're young and we grow up, and, mom and dad suggest certain things, society suggests certain things, and we end up going down these paths that are not necessarily ours. And it's really taking the time and finding the time really to sit down oneself and ask these deep questions and create if you can't find it, right? Because adventure
Yeah,
coaching did
yeah,
not
yeah.
exist when I started this, and now I'm connected with quite a few people around the globe that are a similar adventure coach or free range coach, which is just incredible to find people as passionate as I am about helping other people grow and being active in the outdoors. So
Mm,
it's
mm.
definitely a special place to be.
Yeah. I was just thinking as you're talking, and you and I talked about my career, from engineering to behavior intelligence, two diabolically separate entities that, I have to think about it. My brain is a little bit fuzzy at the moment because of the weather here. But the career that I ended up with was not the area that I wanted to be in. And I remember Jim Rohn saying, um, an education will create a lifestyle for you, which is paying the bills and so forth. But if you really want to be an entrepreneur and succeed at a totally different level, what I think he intended for us to understand was when we understand how we learn and how we evolve and how we grow, and we can actually take on the self teaching, um, we get to a whole new level. And that's where most entrepreneurs end up. And I think a lot of coaches that dive into this area really start to realize that, hey, I don't need to constantly get more education to be successful. In fact, I
Hmm.
know I know some people that are stuck, still all the MBAs, PhDs, and still not acting on it, right? And so I
Yeah.
love what you're doing
Oh,
because
and
you're causing him to get out, right?
yeah, no, absolutely. It's stirring up that every day. And even to generalize some of these populations, like the conference junkie, right? You're going to every event that's happened, and most likely the free ones, you're learning all this incredible information, but it's not putting that into process. And I actually, just before this call, got off a call with a potential new client. And she was looking at getting some certifications. And I was like, oh, well, why would you want to get certification? Like, you've been doing this for how long? She said 20 years. It's like, okay, well, are you not already an expert in the field? And she was then stuck on paying thousands of dollars to have a piece of paper that says, hey, look at me, this is what I got,
Mm,
versus looking at what's within and the belief structure that she had for herself and raising that bar is like, hey, I already have this. Maybe I could use a few little tools along the way. So hopefully something will come out with that. But yeah, no, it's
yeah,
funny
yeah,
because like
yeah.
university degree is in geography. I do use that on a day-to-day basis for more of a personal element and furthering my knowledge of the adventure coaching, but I'm not using that specifically or that title, or never really had to show anyone that diploma to anyone.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever pulled mine out, to be honest. But you're right. A lot of coaches. The first thing I hear from them is, "Yeah, I've decided to become a coach. I'm going to go and get my certificate so that people will accept me as a coach." I mean,
Yeah,
oh, okay. Um, and then
backwards thinking.
yeah, and then they're waiting for people to show up. Well, I have my certificate. Why aren't people
Yeah,
showing up?
everywhere on social media and hope for the audience and all the
Mm,
clients to come rushing. Yeah, no, it's definitely a tough thing. And it's one thing I speak about a lot, about living life from the inside out versus the outside in, is just deciding what you want as an individual and leading with that versus allowing society to dictate and change and alter
right.
everything that
Mm,
we'd be doing in life. And it's an easier path because it's given, it comes to us every day, and we kind of just get pulled down this path versus
mm.
deciding our own path. And that's where I find the
Yeah,
journey is more
yeah.
exciting, and you just wake up happy every day. There's no need to slam that alarm clock buzzing in your ear every morning you get up, because you're excited about life and what you're doing for a living. Right. And then all of a sudden retirement is obsolete because,
Mm.
why do we need to retire at this point when we love what we do?
Exactly. And that's where I was going, I guess, with that whole certificate versus self-discovery, which is often get involved in discussions about, once once somebody knows who they are, they become grounded. It's observable. You can look at a person and you can tell the ones that are grounded and the ones that are still floundering, discovering, trying to figure out what should I be, right, for the
Mm,
world as opposed to for myself, right?
what do I want to be? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So that self discovery is really the power within, I guess, for want of a better phrase, right? When
Hmm.
people get that, and you have a program that takes them through that, right?
Hmm.
Sorry, I caught
Absolutely.
you with a mouthful.
Yeah, no, that's good.
Yeah. So here's what I'm thinking. I'm just, talking off the cuff here, and I think this is a reality. The adventure work that you do with people, I'm thinking of that as an activation process. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely. I wouldn't say necessarily activating, but at least reactivating the mind, body, soul, spirit, everything to the awareness, to what's happened, being present, slowing down. And I find that we're all dealt with similar issues because of this new fast pace of our society today, that
Right.
we feel like we always have to be running. Whereas
Mm.
part of my adventure outings, one that I really enjoy doing is nature walks, and we do a form of meditation throughout it. And it's really just slowing everything down and being present and being aware of all these amazing, incredible things around us, so that when we come out of that, we have a new look at something that we've been staring at potentially every day, right? From relationships to works, around your house, at the job. Well, I guess most people are
Mm.
working from home these days, but nonetheless, a different viewpoint and a different relationship. I think now moving forward with just a cleaner, more positive mind, and I love doing it just by myself to just keep myself on that path, because we all hit walls. There's barriers that come up. There's struggles that happen, but to really reground and hit that reset button, I find is very powerful.
Yeah. And so what you're saying is by slowing things down, we have time to get more clarity. Is that what happens? Or yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Because instead of thinking of 101 things that are just zipping by, and your brain is just looking at what's most important, prioritize them, categorizing them, it's like creating goals, and I could dive down that hole pretty easily as well. But there's just that peace, that calmness, because every day there's something new that we have to complete, get done, add to, and that you incorporate opening and closures of businesses, and then schools opening and closing. Right, we're all hit differently with this thing called COVID that we have to learn how to adapt fast, and that's where we're,
Mm.
a simple little thing. If we start every morning today, what do I need to get accomplished today? What's important to help me get to wherever I want to go? And really focus on that, I think we get better outcomes instead of just every day being chaotic and driving around, running around, and nothing
Yeah.
is as effective at this point, I believe.
Right. Yeah. The picture that came to mind was the Matrix, where you slow
Mm,
everything down, right? And you can
yeah,
you can pick things and do things while
yeah.
time has
And you
slowed down.
see things, right? Because if we see that same move like this, you don't know what's happened, but all of a sudden, if we slow things down, we can now observe it much better to a greater depth, that it sinks in and becomes more real and tangible. And maybe we think of more creative ways to approach something instead of reacting negatively
Mm.
to something. It's just like, oh, okay, that happened, so I'm just going to do it like this now.
Yeah. Yeah. The opposite thought that had also crossed my mind was, yeah, I come across a lot of people that aren't getting off their backside to do things. Like, for me today,
Hmm.
I think I was sharing with you, I've been running these Zoom sessions here, and I've realized that I'm so used to running workshops and standing up and and being able to really engage with the audience that I really needed to change my whole setup today. Because I'm high difference anyway, I got to change things every now and
That's
then.
perfect.
But it
It's
re-engages my thinking style, my movement, my action. And I
absolutely.
wonder, do you get people that need to be reactivated, I guess, in a different way where they're
Absolutely. I
stagnant?
think, yeah, and I think with different curveballs that are out of our controls that come into our lives or business, there's always like, okay, could we work around this? And I think switching it up is good. And even for something you standing today, the movement, the energy is so much different, and it makes me sad now because I'm thinking about all the days on a stage. It used to be so fun, and
Yeah, yeah,
now
yeah,
we do so much more Zoom calls, which one is great. I love it, but it removes us from that whole body language because now you standing, I could see and take in a lot more of just because of your movements versus if
hmm
I was just sitting like this, you don't even know what's going on, right? And I
yeah,
find
yeah,
body language with coaching is just so important as well
yeah,
too. So that's definitely something that has been more challenging with two of my offices, anyways, being
yeah,
closed up from the past year and a
yeah,
bit.
yeah. And working, I'm working with international community of coaches everywhere. There's just no way for me to travel there, so we're now looking at resetting up some of the office space here to be able to use the flip charts and whiteboard and things like that.
Yeah,
You still can't tell if I'm wearing pants or not, but that's okay.
yeah.
Yeah. So, coming back to the whole mindset, really, we've talked a little bit also. You've done some work with Tony Robbins and Jack Canfield and so forth, um,
Hmm.
and a lot of that is to do with reprogramming the brain, right?
Yep.
People people get all confused when I say reprogramming. We have habits that show up as unconscious, automatic behavior responses to
Hmm.
situations. And, again, I love the whole concept of what you're doing because, well, I love the outdoor anyway, but for a lot of people, it, there's a big shift sometimes. But I don't know. Maybe I should hand that over to you to explain, what happens in those situations. Maybe share some stories of what you've seen happen.
For sure, there's many, many, many of them, but nonetheless, a few that come to mind from um, the ex the experiential learning that happens goes beyond the confinement of four walls under neon lights in your standard conference room kind of thing. That there's so much powers and energies which I won't get into for this call that Mother Nature offers. But I've had clients that were originally born elsewhere, somewhere where the weather is completely different, and they incredible people. They just didn't know what to do, how to do in our winters because it's so different. Our Canadian winters compared to so many other countries that it was helping them change their thoughts instead of the mindsets. I'll say thoughts of that cold, miserable, windy, snowy. I'm going to lock myself in my home all winter for a couple months and not do anything.
Mm.
But having the right person, the right locations, the right gear to do all this stuff, it's no different from going to a beach and bringing shorts. You don't bring a big jacket and long pants and closed shoes. You dress appropriate. So the whole dress and maximizing that event and doing it with the best possible elements to have the best possible outcomes, I find is huge. And then there's the flip side of people that are just not adventurous that may want to add more adventures. So there's some fear associated with that or a mindset that's, oh, if I go, go for a hike in the park, I'm going to get eaten by a bear. Um, and then there's the people who are engaged in the outdoors quite often. Let's say that they are cyclists and they go out cycling every day. For them, it's a mindset of I'm going to lose weight, or I'm going to do a big event coming up soon. I need to train. But all of a sudden, to change your thought process, that it doesn't just have to be about that. We could tie in certain elements, just one topic of just clarity. Go on that bike ride with clarity now. It's like, oh, what does clarity mean? And then you're just biking away. They're like, oh, clarity to me is this. And then you look at how the sky is opening up and the sun pokes through. Like there's so much that revolves around Mother Nature that I love relating to life and business.
Mm.
And there's so many different experiences from different people because of how they absorb it. So that if we have this mindset that is negative based, it's reprogramming, absolutely, but there's also the simplification of just looking at it differently or thinking about it differently. So it's
Right.
really depending on what the client's at, is to really help refrain. And like we talked about body language, it's also doing their language of how they speak, what their thoughts are, and using that. So we don't have to get techie, but we there's numerous ways to keep it very simple. It's just like, oh, what are your thoughts about this? I'm afraid. Oh, why are you afraid? Oh, because this happened. Well, why did that happen? Or how did that happen? Or who told you to be scared about that?
Right.
Right? Because we all, I believe we all are born into this world as perfect equal beings. And then it's our
Mm.
parents saying, stay away or do this or try that, or oh, you're going to hurt yourself, oh, you're going to fall. Then it's our parents, and
Yeah.
sorry, after our parents, it's our teachers and neighbors. And all of a sudden, we get more and more pressures and external fears from other people instead of just facing them and living them right away. And I think part of my growth and my successes came so much from facing my fears, not being afraid to fail, try again before those successes happen. And when, like, for example, when I traveled to New Zealand, I just went off and did all the adventures out there, because that to me is like, it doesn't get bigger or better than being in New Zealand and going skydiving. So it's one of those things, face your fear, and it doesn't have to be as extreme as that, but these little tangible things that you could do day to day to just get a little bit closer to um, changing that mindset. And yeah, remapping your own brain, because we're all capable of doing it. And obviously with someone such as yourself, that guidance, you get there a lot quicker and smoother. But it's one of these things, as long as we're able to take time to think about ourselves and ask ourselves, how are we doing, what's good, what's bad, what needs to change, and again, making them tangible, simple steps, I
Mm.
think we could all make a
Yeah.
huge difference in this world.
Yeah. Scientists have actually used this analogy to compare us to the animal kingdom. We're the only animal that can actually think about our thinking. Uh,
Mm.
we're the only person animal on the planet that can think about our thinking about our thinking. You can go many layers with this thing. It's really fun when you do that. But
Yeah.
why did I do this thing is a really good question to just start with.
Hmm.
Uh,
Yeah.
why am I afraid of this? And maybe why is a strong word. What's the reason behind that? I think is a better choice of words. What's caused me to be like this? You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
thinking about how we are is really the first step. And I love the way
Absolutely.
you've put that. There are so many areas here within what you've explained. Uh, I used to pilot. I used to fly planes. When I was younger, I was determined to be a pilot. University and everything else got a bit too expensive, so I stopped. But I never had a fear of height. I loved height. And
Mm.
then I had an opportunity to go on an obstacle course where they had a zip line that was a 500-foot drop. It was a cliff, right? And I froze for a minute, and I had to really think about just going for
Little
it. And
self check. Yeah. What am I doing?
yeah, no, I'm going to just go on here and go, and then get on here and hang on, let me check your ropes. And all of a sudden I'm frozen. I'm going, okay, he said go, but I'm not going.
Yeah.
Right. And it was at that moment that I realized that, hey, I needed to take control of my thinking. And back to, your point of overcoming fears. What are fears? There's just a psychological block. And
Yeah.
In business, those show up all the time, right?
Oh yeah,
Why am
daily.
I? Yeah, why am I not picking up the phone? Or what's the reason for this? What's the reason for that? There's all
Yeah.
kinds of things that you've mastered it because you grew up with, you know, you fail once, try and try again,
Yeah.
we learn
From
by,
Edison to Walt, from Edison to Walt Disney and everyone in between. They tried. They failed. They, went bankrupt numerous times. But ultimately, we know them in history as being very successful. But a lot of us don't know that backstory, and I think that's what really makes us different or stubborn. Is that we keep on keeping on, no matter what
right?
happens and how often we fail.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I've sometimes referred to myself as being so stubborn that it's stupid. You're stupid. Why are you so stubborn?
The
But
traits of entrepreneurs.
yeah, yeah, it's really cool. Actually, I was watching Seinfeld yesterday, and he was sharing an experience. He said, we learn through failures, we learn through successes. When you wake up in the morning and you stub your toe on your bed, it hurts like hell, but you learn a lot about that. You learn about pain
Absolutely.
in your toe.
Yep.
It's funny. He's a great comedian. Look, man,
Absolutely.
I there's just so much more we can constantly talk about here.
hmm
But just to kind of recap a little bit, there's a lot of takeaways here. Don't really want to add too much more to that, but if you were to summarize the top 3 or 4 things that people need to think about, what would you suggest?
Yeah, I would say self-reflection is just spend seconds or minutes with yourself every now and then to see how you're doing, looking at how we could shift our life and start living more from the inside out versus the outside in, and then looking at that big tangible goal, dream, or desire and breaking it down so that we could do something for 1 minute every day to help us get there, which gives us those daily successes, which makes us happy, changes the whole habit structure, allows us to get in a new rhythm and actually start seeing these outcomes that we all want and deserve. I think those are three
Mm,
simple ones with, again, like you said,
yeah,
not adding too
yeah,
much more. We'll have a part
yeah.
two at another time if necessary, but for today
Yeah,
I think that's definitely
yeah.
plenty.
Very cool. Yeah, I'm thinking of my takeaways, and I could add to those, but we'll leave it at that. And Dave, really appreciate your time today, and I'm sure
For sure.
everybody's enjoyed the session. And we think I think we need to have this again and continue the conversation.
Let's
Look
do
forward
that.
to it. All right,
Perfect. Thank you.
take care. I'm going to hide while
Take care.
I
Bye.
click a button here.